my father had an old classical guitar which he called the paddle, and the reason he called it the paddle is because he used to went out one night used to live in the lake, and he went out and he was had a bit too much to drink, and he lost the oars. I don't know if he went out with Hayden actually that night, and he lost the oars anyway. So the only way to get back in was to use the guitar as a paddle, and since then it's become an icon in the family. So I started off with the paddle, which was an old classical six string, probably when I was maybe 12, 13. Started fiddling around with it then. Heard early blues players like Leadbelly, Robert Johnson, Sunhouse, particularly Robert Johnson, and more also for me probably Leadbelly. Just loved his songs. A lot of people don't get into his stuff, but anyway, and it just went from there, and that's how it's kind of started. My role model is, if anything, I like to do projects that interest me. You know, I'm really keen on Ry Cooder and the stuff he does. He's like the anti-James Taylor in a way. He doesn't do just the one thing to get the bums on the seats to make the money. He continues to do lots of different projects, and I guess that's the way it worked with me. I just wanted to learn new different kinds of music, and I wanted to see how I could go with the Witchcraft record in writing for strings, for a string quartet. With the cello album, I did a lot of the cello in the Caravan in London. That was a very sad and depressing record. So I wanted to write for cello and learn about cello, and then the Double Diversity record takes in lots of different Celtic influences and lots of different styles. You know, there's ragtime, Delta blues. There's a version of McCartney's Yesterday on Delta blues. So it hasn't been a conscious thing. It's just been the way I've developed. I worked with a lot of Russian musicians in St. Petersburg, and we did jazz. We never recorded stuff, but we did a lot of jazz stuff. So it's just the way it's been, and it's kept it interesting. And I've learned as I've went along and grown in terms of a composer. And really, what's happened with me now is because of the way that worked and the way that happened, a lot of my stuff gets used, or starting to get used, bits and pieces for film and TV and stuff, mainly because it's kind of become a one-stop shop, and because there's a lot of material they can choose that are from different genres, but it was never devised or calculated that way. It makes it hard to do a touring record if you want to tour, for example, on a record like Double Diversity, because you know, what's the angle? So that's the main thing. But look, my next record I'm doing is one on the American Civil War, which is songs from the American Civil War, so that'll be an interesting one again. Yeah, well, certainly there's been one influence, you know, a lot of influences, Tony McManus and Richard Thompson and, you know, Roy Buchanan on the electric side. And Jerry Donahue is an influence on the electric side. So I've got a lot of influences, but I think they're referring to probably the Secrets, Vows and Lies record, which had a lot of acoustic and cello stuff like Emotional Winter, that song, and a few others that were very much like Nick. You know, he's been an influence. I heard his music a while ago, but since I've done, you know, classical strings, I've done cello, I've done you know, a Double Diversity album which has every kind of style, and a lot of Delta blues and fast ragtime stuff. So Nick's music was very had a particular mood that associated around a lot of. He was from what I understand, he was a very depressed and had a lot of anxiety, and that's certainly the case with me sometimes. But you know, I've done lots of different other albums too. So yeah, he's been an influence, but it's not the only one. Actually, when I did the Secrets, Vows and Lies record, there was a fiddler from England who was he's a very well-known fiddler, and he was playing on the record. And he's a mate of his called Peg, who lives up in Coventry. I was living in London for a while in a caravan, and he caught up with me for a while, and I think he played bass on a lot of his stuff. And caught up with a lot of the players who kind of played with him, and yeah, it was a bit of a sad story. It's always nice in hindsight to see these people, but when you're actually living it yourself and you see it for what it is, it's a little bit different. You know, it becomes a bit blown up over time as things progress. Anyway, to answer your question, yeah, he has been an influence to some of my things, but you know, I've written so much different kind of music now, so. Oh, great! He's the real deal, isn't he, Phil? He he's just such a good player, and uh, yeah, you know, it's really good to meet someone who's can play, you know, just your joy of man's desiring faster and as good as anyone else, but who, so as you get older you realise, you kind of understand that less is more, and that there are some musicians who um, use their use the tune to show off, like stunt musicians, and then there are other people who actually use what they try and do to improve the tune. And the musicians I've always loved, they're not very well known, not often, are the ones who actually can write good tunes in the first place, and they use the music and they write and play to actually improve the genre or improve the tune they're doing. They don't do the opposite. And it was just really good to see Phil doing that. I mean, some of the volume swells and stuff that he does on that album, particularly towards the end, it makes Roy Buchanan and Danny Gatton, who are the, you know, the greats in that, look like one-string banjo players. You know, it's very good what he does, and he was a nice guy to boot, and we had a great time. And so it's very encouraging, because there are very few people like that in the music industry. Well, for me, for electric playing, you know, it was really sad when Danny Gatton took his life. For a telly player, for someone who just had done so much for the instrument, if you look at some of his stuff and listen to it, it's just amazing. It's going to be a long time before anyone, you know, surpasses that kind of mastery. I've always loved Roy Buchanan. I've always loved that style of electric playing. You know, Eva Cassidy was a great loss. Nick, you know, it was sad to see. But there's lots of players, and I mean, if you go, a lot of music you hear is Western music. It's devised by the West, but I lived in Russia and played with the Russians, man, and some of them are really fantastic. You don't hear anything about them. So it's just one of those things. Sometimes you get these really talented people, but the marketing aspect of it doesn't work, and so you know, they never get into a big audience. They're never seen, and they're only ever kind of later on. What happens is people kind of hear their music, you know, at some time later on, and discover them. For me, great players now. Well, good acoustic player. I mean, Django was fantastic. Probably the best Celtic player at the moment, I reckon, is Tony McManus. He's just amazing. If you want to get on to really good jazz, acoustic jazz, Martin Simpson's a really good player. That's Martin Taylor, but Martin Simpson's a good player as well. Martin Taylor's a good jazz player. He did some stuff with, I think, Grappelli before he left. There's just so many of them. You know, Monty Montgomery, go and check out his version of Little Wing on YouTube. Mate, it knock your socks off. So there's most of the really, really good players are the people you never hear of. It's not like the really good players who have this huge, like Eric Clapton, who have this massive marketing machine behind them that is earning them squillions of dollars. But if you really want to hear really good guitar in different genres, you have to dig a bit deeper. And there's different genres, you know. I mean, what's your playing? What do you want? Do you love melodic fingerstyle jazz? Do you like, you know, electric Chicago blues? Do you like, you know, there's music so diverse. There's so many different categories, you know, and there's different players who are fantastic in each of those categories. So, you know, you have to, in each genre, there's these fantastic players that, you know, within their genre everyone knows about, but outside that,